All right, we're back. We are COMP397 in the winter 2018 semester, and we are week 6, part 3 of our broadcast. It's web game programming, and we're going to talk about using web fonts. So our game, not so bad so far. It's got this going on, right? I restart my screen. Let's just actually refresh. I start like this. Mail Pilot doesn't look great. It's consoleless, right? I mean, I can choose some basic fonts that come with the web, but maybe it won't match my game. I want an exciting font for this game, right? Something that's a little bit more interesting than just this. And you know what? I'm going to have to change my button fonts again, too. That's a problem. So how do I change this? I need to use something called web fonts, okay? Because right now I'm using consoleless, and I want to change it up. So there is a site that you can go to for free. It's called Font Squirrel. Okay, Font Squirrel. I actually put it up on Slack already. And for Font Squirrel, what you can do is upload fonts, and it'll convert your TrueType font into a web font. Okay, so as long as this little site stays up, we're good. And there's other sites out there too that does kind of the same thing. Okay, but for now, we can see that inside of our application, right? We have doc51.TrueType font. This will not work on the web like the way it is. We need to upload this thing and convert it so that it's web font compatible. So I'm going to click Upload Fonts. I'm going to go into my COMP397, into D, into Assets, into Fonts, and choose doc51.TrueType font. Press Open. And I've agreed that I'm not using this font illegally. I'm not selling it or anything like that. I got it for a while. And what it's going to do is uploading all the fonts, and it sees that there's 243 glyphs. So a glyph on a font is each character. Each character in the font, like an A or a B or a C or a D, those are called glyphs, right? And what it's going to do is convert these glyphs, right, so that they're compatible with the web. So I'm going to click on Download Your Kit. And what this thing will do is it'll convert all the 243 glyphs into something that is usable for the web. It'll create two files, WAF, so whatever the font is called, .waf, and then .waf2. And those two files, WAF and WAF2, are compatible. I'm going to put this in the right spot. So I'm going to go to COMP397. I'm going to go to Mail Pilot Demo, Assets, Fonts, and I'm going to download this kit. And then I'm going to expand it or decompress it. Inside the kit, actually, is very interesting. It comes with this demo, doc51demo.html. If I double-click onto it, it gives you a preview of my, I don't know, nicer font. It makes more sense for this kind of game. I want to make it so that it's Mail Pilot, you know, this kind of thing. And you can use other fonts. There's other ones out there as well. And it gives you examples of how it looks when it comes to it being regular. Here's what Arial looks like. Here's what Verdana looks like. Here's what Georgia looks like. These are standard fonts, and this is our font. So what's the difference? Okay, and it shows us different sizes of the fonts and in different colors, so we can see what it looks like. So see if we're happy with it. And I think I'm pretty good. I'm okay with this font. So this is the example that it comes with. But it also comes with, if I go to my Visual Studio Code here, and if I look at my assets, under doc51, it also comes with a CSS file. And the CSS file has everything we need to make this font work. So what it's going to do is it's going to declare a font that's called doc51 regular. I can change this. And it's going to have two parts, doc51 web font WAF2 and doc51 web font WAF. Those two files, WAF and WAF2, are the ones that make your font compatible or translate your TrueType font into something that's compatible for the web. That's what it does, okay? So what I want to do is I want to copy this. I'm going to go into my regular CSS that I already have under content. Right now, my CSS doesn't do anything except for make a border that's dotted black around my game, right? But what I want to do is I want to go in here into my CSS and place this into place. I want to rename this, instead of doc51 regular, I want to call it doc51. That's my font name. I can also rename these things, so they're not going to say doc51 anymore. I'm going to go in there and change it in the operating system. And also the URL is wrong because I'm sitting in the content. I've got to go up one to assets, and then inside fonts, and then doc51.waf. This is where my fonts are going to be. Right? That's this part. I don't need the rest of this stuff. I just need the WAF and WAF2. So I'm going to do it in my operating system here. I'm just going to pull the WAF and WAF2 out and get rid of this folder now. I don't need this anymore. And rename these so that it's doc51, like I did in the CSS, doc51.waf and doc51.waf2. So a real simple conversion. That's what I've done. Okay, great. I got everything, and it's in place, but it won't work unless I use it. And what do I mean by that? Well, it's being used by a couple places. One is it's inside my scenes. So in my scenes, in my start scene, notice that I have my button, my label, say Mail Pilot, and the font is Consolus. Now that I have my Doc51 font in, I can just change this to Doc51. And I can do the same with my end screen, my game over. I also have Consolus there. I can change that to Doc51. And you know what? I can also change it inside of my managers, inside my scoreboard manager. I also have some fonts that I use Consolus that I want to change to Doc51. So this in right here. So Doc51. And here's Doc51. And then here's Doc51. So that's cool. All right, let's see it in action. Let's see if this works. So I'm going to go back to my page. I'm going to go to my Mail Pilot, and yeah, baby, Doc51. So way cooler font than the regular Consolus font. But I have a problem with my buttons. Why? My buttons are images, right? That's what I've chosen to do. And this is where there's a problem, right? Positive things about making buttons images are easy to make. Negative things, anytime you make a change, you got to change everything. So let's change these up. I want my buttons to be the same. Okay, so now we're going to have a problem. Why? Because when I change my buttons, right, my web font stuff works. Let me just add, say, I'm going to add web font support. So I'm going to go to here. I'm going to say stage everything, and I'll say added web font support. That's what I've just done with Doc51, right? And I'll push this, so you have this change. But now my buttons have to change. And my buttons, my friends, are actually hard-coded, right? So if I go to my buttons, not my images, or not my sprites, but my images first. And this is where I'm going to show you where we're going to use Texture Packer again, right? I'm going to use Texture Packer again. And we're going to have to make some adjustments again to Texture Packer because I'm going to re-import my whole thing again. So inside my restart button and my start button, I want to change this to Doc51. So start button. I'm going to bring up Fireworks. You can use your favorite program, whatever that is. You can also use something called Krita. That works well, and as well as GIMP. So two really cool programs while that's launching. One is called, it's free. It's called Krita, or Krita, depending on how you pronounce it, right? Krita. I had a professor who said that all the time, and it was cool. There it is. So this is a free image manipulation program. It's really cool, and it's like Photoshop. Okay, you can totally get it for free, and it's cross-platform: Windows, Mac, and Linux. Okay, that's one. I'm gonna put that tool on Slack. I didn't have a chance to do that this morning. And the other tool that's free that you can use is GIMP. Bit of a learning curve on GIMP compared to Krita, right? So here's GIMP. Again, another really cool image manipulation program. You don't have to use Fireworks or Photoshop. You can use these two tools. Both do kind of similar things in a different way. There's GIMP. Okay, I kind of talked about this before, but you should know that these are the tools that are recommended if you want to use something free. Okay? So yeah, that's cool, but I'm not going to use something free right now. I've done with Font Squirrel, and I'm done with Texture Packer. I'm going to use Fireworks, because that's what I did. And notice what Fireworks does is it imports my button in as a PNG image again, okay? So here's my button, and what I want to do is change my fonts. Now you have to have your font loaded here in order for you to change this. But I want to change my font, this part right here, so it's the same. Luckily, I've already included it in my operating system, so you have to include the font you want in your operating system. Here's Doc51, right? And you know what? Black on blue, I never really liked. I never liked how black on blue looks. I think it's bad, black on blue. Maybe we should make it white on blue, you know, because that might look a little better. So I can change this now to white on blue, right? A little bit better, a little bit different, more interesting. You don't like it? Orange? Okay, you can use orange. I don't mind orange. I think white on blue is fine too, but sure, we can use some kind of orange, right? If I actually do it right. Oh, there we go. Shaking your head. White on blue is bad. Okay. I still think it's harder to see myself. It kind of makes it, you know, I mean, this is kind of burnt orange. Yellow works nice. Yellow works nice too. It's very contrasted. The other thing you can do is change your whole thing to yellow instead of blue, right? Because blue background, blue font, right? That's another thing you can do. You can make this, let's make this back to white. Put this back to white. And make this, again, these are just your options, guys. And make the color pure orange, pure yellow. You can do that too. You can do one of these. Or you can start transparent. Right? So start, we'll see the background, whatever it is, right? I'm saying these are just options, right? I'm not telling you that this is the right thing to do or anything. I'm just saying that this is something that you could do. I'm just going to undo that. I'm going to use the blue and white because I think it's going to be okay. I'm going to save this one. And I'm just going to do the same thing with instead of doing my restart, I'm just going to change this to restart, right? And restart. And I'm going to save it as file, save as. I always have to make sure that we're in the right folder because I have multiple folders with the same names. Sorry. But sometimes I'll go crazy. I'm like, where's that image? It's in the wrong folder. So it's restart. I'm just going to change it to restart. There we go. All right, so I got my buttons changed here, but now they're not part of my texture atlas anymore. So I got to include them in the texture atlas. So I'm going to close down Fireworks. And I'm going to go back into my texture packer. And I'm going to bring up a recent file, which is my MailPilot demo. There's my MailPilot project. I have these two buttons. And look, they're automatically done for me, right? Why? Because, and this is a beautiful thing, you're saying, right? My buttons are pointing, this texture atlas points to my buttons. Now what I need to do is republish everything. That's all I need to do. So I go here and go republish. So publish the sprite sheet. It's done. And my friends, when I go to my website, right, and if I refresh, we should see my new buttons. Okay? So there's not a lot of work, right? As long as, that's why I saved my file. Remember I said, save your your texture packer file, because then it's easier to change stuff, right? Or add things. There seems to be a problem though. And one of the problems I can see is, first of all, this works okay, right? So I'm gonna die, maybe get a couple points, right? Here's my restart button. I mean, some of the colors are okay. This seems to be centered okay, but not this anymore. It looks like either these images aren't being measured properly, right? Or that this isn't centered anymore. Do you notice that? See how game over is not quite centered anymore? And so is, if I go back to my original one, look at the way that this looks, MailPilot. MailPilot looks like there's more over here and less over here. And I didn't change the centering. So what happened? Remember that now we're measuring based on the new object. right? So my label that I'm doing, I'm measuring, but maybe I'm not measuring correctly, right? I'm using get measured width, and that may not be the right thing to do, right? I'm just saying sometimes the built-in functions in CreateJS give you some offsets, and you have to go back and look with your eye and adjust stuff, right? So I'm just saying that's you can see the difference there. But the great thing is, if you look at my scores right now, it's got the new font, and we're good to go. All right, so really kind of better. It looks better than the way it did before. The other way, the other font, Consolus, was not the right font for me. All right, so this part's done. So let's go back to, and again, we have some minor things, but nothing too crazy. So what we did here is we replaced the buttons, replaced button assets. Okay, and push. So you got the new button assets now too, okay? We have one more problem, and my problem is I'm not preloading anymore. And you're gonna say, Tom, what the heck are you talking about, right? Well, if you follow along closely, you would have noticed that in my game.ts, I'm not preloading my image. Look, here's my data, okay? And down here, here's my ocean. And I'm preloading all this stuff. But I'm not preloading my atlas. I'm not. And that's a problem, because that means that I'm depending on me doing another load call for my operating system. I want to preload everything. And my friends, sometimes you have to, because if you don't do it, sometimes on some servers, you won't see an image at all. You have to preload all your images in memory first and then display them, right? So this is a problem. And I have a real problem because I'm telling the texture atlas data where the image is in the first place before I preload everything, right? Before I preload. So let's make the preloading work. First of all, in order for me to make the preloading work, I need to have an asset. So let's make this work. So, and again, there's different ways to do this, guys. Please don't get mad at me, right? We're going to call this texture atlas. And we're going to go to assets, sprites. That's where it is, right? Textureatlas.png. Textureatlas.png. It's got to be the right name, right? Like before. Okay, cool. So now we've got this piece. Great. We're going to preload. But we need to use it. We're not using it yet. And we can't use it here. Because this texture atlas data, it doesn't know about this yet or this at all. I could take this information and put it down lower. I could do that. That's weird, right? But I don't want to. I think the best way to do it is up here. Instead of using an image that is fixed like this, I'm going to make it so that it is this, empty. Hear me out. So my images have no image yet. Here's my texture atlas data. And I'm not going to call my sprite sheet creation until everything has been preloaded. So I preload everything first. Here's my load queue of preloading in my asset manager. Then in my start method, a little bit lower, all right, after everything has been preloaded, my start method gets called. I call my texture atlas data. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say something like this, that, by the way, I can't call it yet. I have to form my texture atlas first. My texture atlas, before I call my texture atlas data, I'm going to form my texture atlas data first. And the one piece I'm missing is the images. I don't have my image folder anymore, right? So I'm going to say something like this. Texture atlas data dot images is equal to this. No, is equal to this. But wait a minute. I can't equal to that. I need to use the asset. So I'm going to say asset manager dot get results, and then pass in, just like we've done before, texture atlas. And that's how you do it. So what I've done is I make it not have anything inside of it, but it has to have that images in order for me to make a correct pass into Texture Atlas data, right? I rejig it by using the preloaded image, and I set it as the images portion of my Texture Atlas data and pass it in. And I do that in the start function. Now I'm preloading my Texture Atlas as well. Before I was not. So this is an optimization, but I wanted to get this in the code before next week. All right, let's save and load and see what happens. Oh man, what the hell happened? Well, there's two possibilities. One, I got the wrong path, right? TextureAtlas.ping, right? That's one possibility. And the second one is that, you know what, I'm not getting my Texture Atlas into my Texture Atlas data.images. And what I mean is Texture Atlas data images has to have a string. And that's wrong what I did. The reason why it doesn't work is because I have to recreate it. I have to say that this asset manager string is actually in one part of the array. I mean, I could do this, or I could say that Texture Atlas images 0, right, is equal to that. However I do it, I got to do it so that it has an array of images. Because I can have more than one image based on resolution if I want, right? And if I save that and go back, then I should be able to see my image now, right? So all my images are preloaded. Even my Texture Atlas is preloaded now. And notice it takes a little bit of time to load. Take a look, right? So see that? It's loading. That loading part, where you see it white for a second, the more stuff I preload, the longer it's going to take. Longer it's going to take, right? So sometimes what I have is a loading screen, okay? And you might see this in video games where you see loading, and then it says loading, 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 and it keeps loading, loading, loading all the way. I'm going to handle that with you next week, right? Or some other week, where we can actually see a little loading bar come up. So when the game is finished loading, then you can play. And it's a common thing because most video games preload all their data on assets too, right? Otherwise, you're just going to wait for it to load, and there's not going to be any feedback for the player. Luckily, CreateJS has some tools to create that situation. All right, so things we covered so far is we re-optimized. So I'm going to go back to this. These are the things I changed. My game, I'm going to kind of stage all this. I'm going to say optimized, optimization version 2, right? Because I've optimized twice today. I'm going to push that part. Okay, now I want to update my website. This is the development version. I want to update my website on the deployed version, right? Development, deployed, right? Looks like this still, up online. Here's my development version, my deployed version. So I want this to all change. Now it's a different repo for this. Where is it? Remember for you to put it up on GitHub pages, I'm going to close this down again. For you to put it up on GitHub pages, you need two things, right? You need to have this. This is my deployment page. My deployment page is exactly what I have in my code is the exact same, right? Except I have two things. I have my CNAME and I have my my other hidden folder, right? That is that, .no thing folder. Let me show you what it looks like here. So I'm going to kind of pull up my VS Code, and let's switch to this one for a second, just to show you. So notice I have this, actually this isn't the right version. I think I have a later version up online. I think I'm going to pull it back down. Yeah, so let's what we'll do is we'll do a pull. And now I have this Node Jekyll. I need this Node Jekyll file, right? So Node Jekyll, remember I need that as part of my files. I need all the rest of this stuff, right? So I want the exact same stuff, except I want to replace some stuff in here. All my scripts and assets and even my content changed today, right? In fact, what I want to do is get rid of everything. So delete. Again, you can do this in your files. There's a way to do it. Again, there's lots of ways to do this, but I'm going to delete everything except for my CNAME. So move to trash. And my Node Jekyll. And then I'm going to go into this one here. I'm going to go into my mail pilot demo D and copy everything from here into here. And if you look at my project, right, I have 57 changes, right, because I've just replaced everything. Now, why did I do that? Because, first of all, notice I have two projects. My main development project doesn't get touched. Please don't touch your project. That's not the one that's going up on GitHub pages. It's going to be my other one, the one that sits inside my, whatever the account name is called, .github.io. That one's going to go up on GitHub pages. All right? All right, so let's make that change. So I'm going to go up here and just stage all these changes, right? And you can see what got updated and modified. These are all the things that got updated and modified. And I'm going to say that I updated project to include, well, we'll say updated project again. So click on this and push. Now this is going to push to my Ciliopoulos.github.io account, which, if everything goes well, then if I go up on here in my website, it's going to take a few moments, and I might have it cached, right? It should still work, or it may not. Or it may not, right? This works locally, we're good, right? But what about this little puppy? What's causing this to have a problem? Let's inspect it. All right. Oh yeah. So it says cannot set property of stage, which is undefined. Let me just check to see what happens. So I'm going to go to here. I have my node modules. Make sure I have all my stuff in here. We're good to go. Node Jekyll, that's here. That's cool. Let's check my repo. Sometimes my repo takes a second to update too, right? So I'm going to go back to my code. I know, actually, don't get mad. Don't get mad. All right. So here's about a minute ago, right? And I have node modules. Here's my Node Jekyll file, which is empty. And this file, which is right here. And like I said, sometimes it takes a second to cache, right? That's causing the problem. Here's my assets. Make sure that I have all my images and sprites in the right place. Here's my images. And here's my sprites. So all that's good. This is all inside github.io. And give it another second and refresh. Sometimes it doesn't work. Yeah. And now we have some other issues. So we'll do the same troubleshooting as before. We know what's up though. And we know it's changed, because if it wasn't changed, this would be the exact same as we had before. So it says that cannot set property stage of undefined. And this is in game TS50. First place we check. Yeah. So, and you see that this is what's happening. It's trying to find my texture atlas, right? Texture atlas.png. And I'm getting an error there, right? Getting an error. which is causing a bit of an issue. So again, I want to point this out because this is some of the stuff we encounter, right? When it comes to us putting things up online, it somehow works locally, but that doesn't work online. And sometimes it's because of the pathing. We talked about pathing issues, right? Where we can take away the // and because / is relative path, right? And the way to check this is to see, can I see this sprite? So again, it would be, Triopolis.com/assets /sprites /texture atlas.png. See it, right? I'm saying, see how I'm checking it? So I can see that this does exist, so it's not a loading problem. And maybe it's a caching problem. So I'm going to look at it from another, I don't think so in this case. I'm looking at it from another browser. I'm going to use Firefox. I don't think it's this, though. It's something else. This is cached version, right? Cached version. Where is it? No, but look at MailPilot. MailPilot's not working. All right. And how about the other stuff? So this works. And so there is a caching problem. There's a caching problem in Chrome. All right. That's what it's telling me, right? And to combat this, let's use incognito mode. So we'll go to incognito mode. I'm telling you, sometimes there's a caching problem, and we just have to accommodate for this. So let's go back into incognito mode and see what's happening. Right now we're good. Right, we're good. So why? And why does it do this on here, and then inside of our Firefox, it gives us something different for the web. It's almost like the web fonts aren't found on Firefox, but they're found in Chrome. Huh? WebKit's not compatible. So sometimes we need to have some kind of other way of doing web fonts with WebKit. And the way to also do that, let's test one more browser for us. Let's test Safari. Does it work on Safari? I mean, we are making a website, so we got to test a couple things. So again, I'm going to stop this because it's taking up a lot of my memory. And I'm going to check on Safari. I'm going to go to my site. So I'm going to go to me.com. And let's see what I get with Safari. Again, I think it's a great opportunity. See how it changed? See how that changed? It was there, and then it changed to this. So Safari works, right, with my web font, but not Firefox. So again, we can Google this if you don't know what it is that's causing the problem, right? So we can say web fonts not working in Firefox, right? And it's going to be add font face. It's going to be another change. You're going to have to make a change to using the different extensions for add font face for WAF. So it's going to give you a suggestion here on the bottom. And it says that Firefox comes with a very strict file URL or URI origin policy by default. To have it behave just as other browsers, go to About Config, filter by file URL, and toggle the following preface. Security file. Well, that's kind of modifying Firefox. I don't want to do this, right? That doesn't make any sense to me, to modify Firefox. I want to modify it so that it works all the time. If I have to, I will, but I really don't want to. And the other one that might make sense is I may want to use some other stuff. So several Google fonts not working in Firefox 57. Let's see, these are much older, but let's say which ones work. So it says security sandbox content level 1, close and restart Firefox to make it. So where does it say that? So you have to modify Firefox. I've got that twice in the Firefox config. But hey, man, if I have to change my Firefox, what about you? You're going to have to change your Firefox. And someone else is going to have to change their Firefox, right? So that means my web fonts aren't going to look right. I mean, that's not right. That's not cool for Firefox. There must be something else. Maybe there's a way of using an extension, right? So because Firefox should be using the same as everything else, if I'm not wrong. There is a -WebKit at font face. So at font face not working. We'll say that. At font face and Firefox. How do I make it work? Right. So sometimes what happens is we have to change it. It says that we can see that there's WAF and WAF2. This is exactly what we did. And here's the formal syntax for it. But there might be some times where you can make an extension to make it work. WAF2, and looks like Firefox supports it, but IE does not. When was this done? Browser compatibility. That's wrong. It's long time ago. Is that I think they all support it now, but it's just not working properly. Stack Overflow. I don't think there's an option for this right now, and I don't see something that that causes this. WAF, WAF2, and SVG. And yeah, see, it should work. Totally work. Safari 3 to 5, Chrome, Firefox 3.5, and Opera. So I could have used TrueType and pointed to this as well. So maybe what I'll do is I'll point my font, my TrueType font, to that. Let's try this out as a backup. So I'm going to go back to my site. And let's reload in my, actually I'll do it in the remote first. I'll try the remote this time. By going to, sorry guys, we're almost done. I'll go into my content, I'll go into my game.css, and I'll add that in here as well. I don't think this is the problem, but let's see. So we'll make it so that it's this. And let's see how that works. And I'll upload that. I'll make a change. Updated font family. I don't think this is going to make a difference, though, at all, to be honest with you, because I don't think this is the problem. It's something like they said in Firefox. But, hey, maybe I'm wrong. Okay, cool. So that is up. And, of course, our on Chrome, not going to work, right? Because this is like, you know, we tried making it work on Chrome before. And, again, sometimes it takes time to update. It looks like it's going to be broken for a bit longer. Oh, Chrome works now, finally. So it updated finally, right? And let's see Firefox. Safari we know works. And Firefox, yeah, I don't think it's going to work. And it doesn't. So there's some kind of new security thing for Firefox that prevents some TrueType fonts from working. See that? That took too long. What was that? Say that again? The button is an image. Yeah, that's why the button is working, right? This one is an actual font and glyphs that are being converted, and that's why it's not working, right? So WAF and WAF2 are being blocked somehow, basically due to a Firefox setting, but that means that my website will work differently for Firefox people, and that's bad. There must be a fix out there that does it that has nothing to do with me resetting my settings. I don't want to change people's settings. I want my stuff to work everywhere, right? Here's another test for you. Check out, because my Consolas font, right, was the one that I used. Huh? I replaced it with Doc 51, and this is a fallback font. This is Times. Yeah, it's called fonts.google.com, right? So if you go there too, like if you go to a pure web font, fonts.google, this is Google fonts, right? So if you don't like my custom font, right? And you can certainly use Google fonts. Well, yeah, it's got to be a web font, right? Because you can't just use whatever font you want. You have to convert it, right? There is one other thing you can do, and you're going to be really mad at this. Lots of work to be done here, right? Like, for example, let's say I want to use something that's more bold or something else. I can reuse some of these fonts as well, like you said. And they give you some code to make them use later on, okay? But so lots of web fonts that make sense, like maybe something that makes sense with MailPilot, okay, as an example. And I don't have that. I don't see anything that I really like right now, although I could probably search through and find something that is somewhat okay, like from what we're doing, and we can do the same thing. And it may work, it may not work. But I want to mention something else, right, just before we go. So we got our MailPilot. What we could do is we could also translate it into something called font bitmaps. Okay, so font bitmaps, and there is a font bitmap generator. Okay, it's a lot more work. Control click, sure, control click. There's a lot more work. Again, please forgive me. I'm not trying to piss you off here or make you angry, right? But the reason why I'm showing you this is because I have my fonts, and let's suppose I load my font in here, right? So I'm going to do this, the last thing I'm going to do, and then we're going to go. So the great thing about this is it allows you to load whatever font you want, right? So right now we have our preview font, right? Here's my preview text. And what you can do is you can load up your own font. So I want to load Doc51, and then it'll change it. Here's my Doc51. And you can also make it so that it looks way cooler, right? Because you can make it 2 colors. But my problem is that each one of these little glyphs, right, is an object, right? And so what we need to do here is we need to use bitmap fonts, right, to make this look a lot better. And I have a whole other lecture I can do on bitmap fonts, how to do this. My problem is the kerning, right, like how high the font goes and everything. But this can be very interesting because, as an example, I can include only the fonts that I need. Like maybe I don't need some brackets or whatever. I'll maybe only need uppercase and lowercase letters and some other things. And then I can export it. Look, notice I can export to XML, a .font, right? Which is interesting, and some other formats, right? So this is interesting. It's like a sprite sheet again, but for fonts, called bitmap fonts, something else. So we're not going to get into that today, but I just wanted to point out that there is support for it to some degree in our EASL.js, if I'm not wrong. Here it is. Bitmap text class, right? So what you do is you use bitmap glyphs defined in a sprite sheet, right? And it says multi-line text is supported using new line characters, but automatic wrapping is not supported, right? And basically what you do is you say that, now I wonder if it gave some, last time I went here, it didn't have very many examples at all, but here's the constructor where the text is equal to something and the sprite sheet is equal to something else. I'm not sure how this works. I know they have support for it, but I've never seen it in operation. I've never seen this thing work, but it does have support here in React.js. So what I'll do is I'll take this back. Maybe next week I'll show you how to use bitmap fonts, and that will work all the time for everything because now it's an image. Now it's not each font, each word, each letter is an image. What does that do to our labels? What does it do to our spacing? What does that do to our formatting? It's a whole other thing to do. So that's all I want to leave you with today. Just a reminder before we go that your peer review is due tonight, right? So that means like take a look at your team. There's this one thing that's up on Dropbox. Please finish your peer review. It talks about how you performed this week, how your team performed over the last couple weeks, I mean, for your, as you move towards your alpha release, which is next week. Okay, so that's due tonight by midnight. It's another peer review, yeah. I'm gonna get you to do it a couple times, right? So that every time you work on some module, some section, I'll get you to do another one, right? And if it's the same, it's very simple. It's the same thing. Everyone did well, put it up and everything's good. But there might be some times where people want to kind of specify, you know, I got some issues. Nothing is, you know, I'm not happy with how this working or how that's working. So please do that. And then the other thing I want to mention is that next week, just a reminder that next week, by the end of Saturday at midnight is when your alpha release is due. Alpha release, you have 2 levels. We have talked before you go. 2 levels, your start menu and your game over screen. You need to have that by next week. Okay? And that's it for me, guys. See you next week. Hopefully this was a cool tutorial for you guys. You did some optimization, some fonts, and some animations, which is going to be something we're going to add next week. Next week, come prepared, because I'm going to do explosions. We're going to do an explosion animation. We're going to add some special effects. And going forward, I'm going to keep adding more and more special effects to my little mail pilot game. Some bullet firing, multiple enemies, multiple levels, all that kind of stuff to really make my mail pilot game into alpha, you know, into something that's reasonable. Okay? And that's it for me, guys. Take care. See you next week.